Hey again. In this video, I wanted to go through one of my favorite features of Ableton Live. It's called Simpler, and it's just like the name sounds, it's a simpler, more intuitive version of the sampler. I never really use the sampler that much because Simpler suits my needs, so that's what I'm going to be doing for this tutorial. Simpler just takes a sample and maps it and pitch bends it so that you can play it like a normal synthesizer. It's also good to know too because this is what you run into in a drum rack. When you make a drum rack, like in one of my previous tutorials, it really just loads each sampler into a simpler, and you can affect it that way. So if you know how to use Simpler, you can do a lot more with your drum racks too. So figured it'd be a great addition to one of my older tutorials. So Simpler is really great for doing goofy things with samples, and also kind of making synthy kind of patches using just samples that you found. I like using it to kind of steal instrument sounds. So like I have this bass loop right here. And if I want to take that and kind of play that bass sound, I'm going to click it, I'm going to drag it into my simpler. And now I can play it just like any other MIDI device. So if I hold the key down, it's going to keep going through. That's not what I want for if I'm trying to make my own kind of bass patch. So in here, you can use these arrows and click and drag and isolate the sound that you want. So I really only want this little part right here, and I'm going to zoom in on it. So now I can play whatever I want with that bass sound. So it's a little quiet. So over here is the volume control, and I'm going to bump that up just a little bit. Okay. Another useful thing on here is this loop button, and that's so when I hold the note down, it's going to keep playing it. And it sounds a little weird because the end of our sample leaves a little room here, so that's why you get that bing, bing, bing when it loops. So we can actually make it shorter. And we still kind of get that popping sound. But it's a little bit better. Simpler has a built-in filter with all your standard stuff. And another filter up here. Built-in LFO right here. You can transpose your sample, so if you want to do that, slide's kind of nice. That's for when you change notes. So you see the difference between portamento and glide. Velocity It's kind of really only to do when you're using a MIDI controller. I'm not. I'm using my virtual keyboard. And that's pretty much the basics of it. That's really all I ever use with it. One cool thing, you can actually use it as a kind of synthesizer. So if I put it on loop and I isolate the wave to something very, very short, even shorter. So now I'm basically just using this little wave right here as the basis for my synth. So that's kind of cool. And if you end the sample in the same spot, you get a nicer, rounder sound. And here, you just kind of sounds more like a sawtooth or something. But yeah, you can do whatever you want. I like taking like goofy samples and making patches with it. So like, yeah, here we go. This is a sample of me and my friend Matt, and he makes this really nice sound right here. So that's nice. So I'm gonna cut that down and kind of move the start of it right over here. Essentially, what I'm doing that is, since the wave, the wave of the sound starts here, and the attack envelope's kind of right there, I'm essentially reducing the attack of the sound versus. So it kind of comes in a little bit faster. And then so it's kind of ridiculous, but this is like my favorite thing to use Simpler for. And yeah, it's just lots of great fun, and pretty much one of my favorite features of Ableton Live. So if you have any questions, like always, don't hesitate to drop me a message, and I'm glad to help you out. But anyway, have fun with Simpler. Cheers.